Welcome to Mr. Kevin Tolly, who is the Tolly founder from Tolly Group. He will share with us
These mics going? There we go. Okay, thank you so much, Chris. We've been hearing a lot from Justin and just the most recent discussion about ransomware, problems with ransomware. And that's my discussion today is talking about testing that we just conducted a few weeks ago on the new cloud version of the Multilayer Ransomware protection. So let me go into that a little bit. If you're not familiar, let's see if we get that. We tested this before. There we go. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we're an independent provider of third-party validation services for IT products and solutions. We've been doing this for over 35 years. Areas that we work in include LAN, wireless LAN, security, storage, and so forth. So pretty much all of the different areas that are involved in looking at the Huawei solution. We published almost 2,000 reports for over 200 vendors. So we just heard some more, we heard about ransomware. Let me tell you a little bit more. So it's a threat, I think everybody would agree. According to the Sophos research a year or so ago, 59% of organizations were hit with attacks. 70% of these attacks resulted in data encryption. There was a 5-time increase, and I think we saw with the gentleman from Mozambique, the numbers keep growing and growing and growing. And it only gets worse. We've heard a lot in the show and in these presentations about AI and how AI helps us do our jobs in our service provider and enterprise networks. But unfortunately, AI also helps the bad guys. AI is now being used to create ransomware attacks. And so they can be created and generated very, very quickly. So every day that goes by, it's more and more important to be able to deal with those. So that's why the Huawei CMRE solution is more and more important all the time. So let's take a look at it. There's a lot of information here, so I've got to refer to some notes. There's 4-level protection, coordinating both cloud and storage. So we've heard this before this afternoon. It's not just one piece, it's different pieces working together in collaboration from the network through to the storage. So there's different levels, you'll see them on the right side of the screen. The first level is intrusion prevention. As you'll see in a few minutes, there are multiple aspects to that. It's not just one aspect. So this cloud security establishes robust intrusion prevention across the network border, application, and host domains. As you'll see in a few minutes with the testing that we've done, it covered 100% of known ransomware families and was also effective against some AI-based unknown viruses. Very important. So in addition to the defensive capabilities of the cloud security, the storage provides detection of data encryption by the ransomware. We'll see more of that in a moment as well. The second level here is spread prevention. If something gets in, we have to keep it from spreading. So the compromised hosts can be comprehensively and automatically isolated and addressed within seconds. And we heard that earlier about the objectives of Huawei trying to beat the industry standards and try to get these things faster and more effective. Third area that we'll look at is data leakage prevention. So if something does get in, we need to stop leakage. Some of you might know this as exfiltration. We have to keep the data from getting out. So the Huawei solution that we tested enables full lifecycle cloud data leakage prevention and visualizes the entire link of data transfers. The storage isolation zone encrypts replication links to prevent link eavesdropping, so you get protection on all sides: cloud, storage, and isolation zone. And then last but not least, on the bottom right is tampering prevention. That's what you heard about in prior presentations as well. The last thing you want to happen is to have your key data encrypted, because that means the ransomware has won, and you'll likely have a very expensive method is the only way you can get your data back. So at the storage level, the Huawei Cloud Security detects threat risks and collaborates with storage to proactively enable data protection. We'll see some of these specifics in a few moments, but it can be things like creating secure snapshots, backing up critical virtual machines, locking hardware, and in really serious situations, proactively disconnecting the air gap link. You'll see where it's actually, the storage is isolated so that nothing can happen to it. So these next few slides are all from the test report. We've done very, very recent testing. The summary report was published a few days ago, and the full report will be forthcoming. So each one of these areas, I know it's difficult to see, but each one of these areas is multiple tests within each of the scenarios that we just mentioned. So the first item was intrusion prevention, comprehensive anti-intrusion capability to assess intrusion protection, traffic detection, defense against web application attacks, so web application firewall, and host-based malware detection across the network border, application, and host layers. So what we did here is we created a realistic vulnerability environment. We built a network with Huawei where there were hosts, malware was introduced so we could see it in action and verify the capabilities. So we had a realistic vulnerability environment and actually tried to produce or introduce malicious ransomware samples, simulating various attacks such as vulnerability exploitation, brute force cracking, and database penetration. The Huawei CMRP solution successfully detected 100% of the attacks and blocked 100% of the attacks. So this is the next level, spread prevention. And again, here too, each one of these is excerpts from our testing. So it wasn't just one test at this level, it was multiple tests. So this test verified a broad range of capabilities, such as east-west virus access, policy management, spread detection, and blocking of host-based ransomware isolation and termination, as well as horizontal host scanning and detection. So the issue, if ransomware gets in your system, what does it do? It travels east, or it tries to travel east-west within your intranet to try to find other hosts that can compromise and to move the attack closer to your important resources. So east-west policy management, east-west blocking is extremely important in blocking attacks that might make it through the first line of defense. So during this test, we tested abnormal processes and compromised hosts. We put that in there intentionally, and the Huawei solution effectively prevented the viruses from spreading horizontally within the intranet. So all test cases passed successfully. Okay, third of four areas. I know it's a lot to go through, but it's a big, complex system that does lots of good things. So here we're at leakage prevention, or exfiltration, you might know it as. So this test verified the CMRP capabilities with respect to data classification and labeling, data watermarking that facilitates backtracking, high-risk database operation audits, and sensitive information leakage prevention for web applications, along with other capabilities. Each one of these columns that you see here is a separate test within the leakage prevention. The results: Huawei's solution effectively classified and visualized data transfers, enabling accurate detection and blocking of data leaks, meeting all test expectations. So the final area is making sure that your data is safe from tampering, that your data is safe from encryption. So in this case, and again, each one of these is separate tests. We did tests with single hosts, we did tests with multiple hosts. We did tests with low risk, medium risk, and high risk. Why did we do all that? We did it because you need to respond, you want to respond differently depending on the risk level and depending on how many stations are involved. You don't want to have an air gap if there's a low risk situation on one or two stations. You want to be sure that the response matches the requirement. So what do? We verify the ability of a single host to detect and handle low, medium, and high risk threats, as well as the capability of multiple hosts to manage high risk threats. So we went through, ran the gamut of environments, ran the gamut of scenarios that you might expect. The cloud security detected the threat risks, and here's the key part, collaborates with storage systems to trigger a 3-layer protection approach, depending on the severity of the threat. A snapshot, just to have something there. A full backup if the threat gets to a medium level, and air gap link disconnection in the isolation zone if there is a critical threat on multiple machines. So once that's isolated, no one can get to that storage, which means the ransomware cannot get to that storage. We talked a little bit earlier on some of the earlier presentations about RPO, the recovery time. The data restoration RPO is within minutes, and backup data centers cannot be tampered with, fully protecting your data security. So looking at this, we see that the Huawei CMRP solution inherits the in-depth defense system with pre, in, and post-event phases of the MRP solution. And this complies with what you see here with the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover IPDRR cybersecurity framework of the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It is an industry-leading and comprehensive defense solution against ransomware attacks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David, for this very interesting and comprehensive report. I was impressed. Please stay on stage. Now we will have an awarding ceremony for Huawei CMRP Solution Certified by Tolly. And for this ceremony, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Giovanni Massinga,